Horror. An extremely strong feeling of fear and shock that existed since the birth of humanity. Additionally, it was made into a genre that has evolved over the centuries. Since ancient Greece and Rome, this peculiar genre was found in folklores and religious traditions that depicts horrifying creatures of the dark, like demons, witches, vampires, werewolves, and ghosts. The genre evolved further as centuries passed. It grew in popularity and are being written in the forms of various literature, such as the Brothers Grimm's Hansel and Gretel in 1812, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in 1818, and Robert Louis Stevenson's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1886. In the 21st century, due to the advancement in technology, horror was able to be expressed by various creators in a multitude of forms beyond literature, like films, television, and even video games. However, within the infinite sea of subgenres spawned from this feeling of fear, one subgenre was able to land an impact unlike any other, penetrating through popular culture and became an icon of inspiration for many of the great post-millennial horror fiction authors, directors, and creators, all created by one single author. Named after the creator himself, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Lovecraft is a genre of horror that is generally described as the fear of the unknown. To understand the creation, we must first understand the creator. Since he was young, Lovecraft greatly admires gothic horror, and when he grew up, he wanted to write horror stories himself. But then, World War I began, and people had seen the true meaning of horror. Tales of superstition and monsters no longer frightened them, so Lovecraft decided to create a new horror for the people to be scared of. As the progress of science evolves through new inventions and discoveries, people became less afraid as everything can now be explained with rational, logical, and scientific methods, and people started seeing themselves as gods or even the rulers of the universe. Lovecraft, however, wondered, what if there are some things that are beyond science and mathematics, beyond the comprehension of mankind? What if there are some discoveries of the great unknown that we mere human beings are not supposed to unearth and are better off left undiscovered? In one of Lovecraft's most recognizable work, At the Mountains of Madness tells the story of a group of scientists and explorers in the Antarctica, venturing deep into the caverns of the mountains in search for knowledge on the origins of the Earth. However, the deeper they went, the more they regret going on this expedition, as the things they witnessed, buried within the depths of the Earth, were not meant for mere mortals. In one of his stories called The Colors Out of Space, it tells the story of a strange meteorite that fell on the soil of a farmhouse, changing the environment into a hellish wonderland that terrorized the family that lived near the farm. Meanwhile, in his most iconic story, The Call of Cthulhu tells the story of a cult worshipping a god with dragon wings, a face with tentacles, and a humanoid body. And if one were to see this god, they would lose their sanity as they try to rationalize what they saw with their naked eyes. Through his stories, Lovecraft created a mythology, as his stories all took place within the same fictional continuity. In his stories, it almost always ends the same way. The closer the characters in the stories are in uncovering the truth, they will either lose their sanity trying to make sense of the unfathomable discovery, or, if they're lucky, they will still have their sanity intact, but they will now live their life haunted by the truth, knowing how insignificant and meaningless their life is in the grand scheme of those who truly rules the universe. The works of Lovecraft are often unexplained, leaving a blank canvas for the audience to interpret themselves. What does it all mean? But that's the idea. That was how Lovecraft created this genre of horror, by leaving behind unanswered horrors to the imagination of the audience, because human beings will always try to rationalize their hardest on what they don't understand. All because humans are afraid of the unknown. That is why, as long as we humans are afraid of the unknown, and there are depths of the ocean, caves, or secrets of the earth that are unexplained and undiscovered, the horror genre, Lovecraft, will continue to permeate through popular culture. Now, if you've noticed, when I was explaining Lovecraft stories, I did not use the written literature to explain the respective stories. No, instead, I used the result of Lovecraft in popular culture. For the story of At the Mountains of Madness, the example I used for the visuals was from a virtual reality video game called Edge of Nowhere, which was made based on the story. In The Colors Out of Space, the clips I used were actually from the movie adaptation of the story that was released in 2019. Meanwhile, for The Call of Cthulhu, I used The Sinking City, another video game that was made based on the story. These are only some of the impact of Lovecraft on popular culture in terms of films and video games. Even till now, the essence of Lovecraft can be found in the literature of horror fiction authors such as Stephen King, who created Pennywise the Dancing Clown in his story It, which was created based on the inspirations found in Lovecraft. The clown was so popular and well received that he even became an iconic horror creature in the popular culture. Other than that, Lovecraft also became an inspiration for comic book artist Mike Mignola in his creation of a popular comic book called Hellboy, where the main character of the story, Hellboy, fights demons and evil entities that were inspired by Lovecraft. Through the passage of time, the horror genre Lovecraft have evolved beyond the pages of literature and penetrating into films, video games, and other forms of media. And it will continue to evolve, taking different shapes and forms of expression through us, the people. Because as long as we people are afraid of the things we don't understand, and as long as everything is still unexplained, we will continue to be afraid and be inspired to create concepts and theories to fill in the gaps in these unexplained puzzles, and thus indirectly creating a never-ending legacy in the horror genre, Lovecraft.